Okay, good morning, everybody. Thanks for coming. So today's class is going to be about working with leases. So when you're representing a landlord or a tenant and what's all involved and everything. But I want to start off by reminding you guys that we also have classes on my CB desk in Coldwater University. So aside from the Thursday morning classes here, you can register for some of these classes. They're really good. So I mean, if you guys have time, definitely register for them. Some of them are like 2 days a week for an hour and a half each day. Some are four days, 2 days a week. So for 2 weeks, for an hour and a half each day. And they're very helpful, so informative. So sign up for these. There's some for new to the business, experienced agents. So if you go to new to the business, it tells you what classes that they recommend that you take. So just a reminder that we have other educational resources here. All right, so now that that's out of the way, let's start the class. All right, so working with the landlord and the tenant. So what are you going to learn? Tips on launching your lease listing. So if you're working with the landlord, what you're going to need to set up the listing and how to launch it and get it going. We're going to talk about steps to take when working with a tenant. So now that let's see, you're working with a tenant, what do you do, right? They call you up and say, hey, I'm looking for a property, 3-bedroom house in the city of Irvine for this much. What do you do? And we're going to talk about representation agreements, applications, reports, and supporting documents that you're going to need for the lease. Strategies to make your application more appealing. Let's face it, there's a lot of people looking to rent right now. And you're going to have people that you're going to submit an application 5 to 10 times for that aren't going to get it. So what will make your client stand out? All right, so why work with the lease? You guys are realtors, right? You're here to sell houses. But working with the lease is very important because it helps build confidence, right? I mean, you're new to the industry. The more you work with these tenants, the more you're able to navigate the MLS. And as we're going to see here, gives experience in communicating with other agents. So when you look in the MLS for these listings, potential leases for your client, you're going to contact the agent to ask them questions, right? So their contact information is in the MLS. And if you have a question as, hey, do you guys accept pets? Because I didn't read anything in the MLS on it. Or my client would like to lease for 3 years. Is the owner open to that? You can contact the listing agent, talk to them. So you get experience communicating with agents. You get nervous at the beginning, right? Because what am I going to say? I'm new. What if I ask the wrong questions? We understand that. That's why it's good that you work with leases at the beginning if you have an opportunity to, because it helps with all this. Scheduling showings. You're either going to use Showing Time. It's a program in the MLS or an app that allows you to schedule. When you click on the app, it shows you what time slots are available. You select one, it notifies the listing agent, and they approve it. And then you can schedule the showing, or the showing instructions in the MLS might say, contact listing agent with your desired time and wait for a confirmation. Or it'll say, go direct. That's it, right? No need for permission. Showing properties, opening lockboxes. So you get experience with showing properties, right? So you're going to meet the client at the property, or are they going to jump in your car with you, you can drive around, whatever the case may be. I recommend you just meet them at the property. You get experience of, again, I'm emphasizing on opening the lockbox because some people get caught up in not being able to open the lockbox. So practice. You don't want to be working with a buyer for $1 million, $2 million, $3 million house and not know how to open a lockbox to get into the house. It's embarrassing. So practice that. As little as that might sound. Working with Zipforms and digital signatures. So when working with real estate sales leases, you're going to need certain forms, right? You're going to log into Zipforms, which houses all of the contracts that you're going to use for real estate. Well, most of them. There's some company disclosures that you can add to it, but you have to learn how to fill out the contracts, send them out for digital signatures, along with applications. You're going to end up going to rent spree if you're working with a tenant or a landlord. So when you're working with a tenant, you're going to create an account. We'll go through that a little bit later, where you can email an application link to the client. They click on the link, they create an account, they fill out the application, they pay for the credit report, and it notifies you when it's complete. Now you have that, their application and credit report, that you're gonna submit on their behalf to the listing agent, which represents the landlord, right? But there's gonna be other supporting documentation you're gonna need. Some agents are asking for, or landlords are asking for, last 2 bank statements for each applicant. Last 2 pay stubs for each applicant. Some are even asking for last year's tax returns. So these are things you're gonna have to look for in the listing itself in the MLS before submitting your application packet. And submitting offers. It's pretty simple, but you have to have all the documentation. And it's as simple as setting up an email, application for 123 Main Street, and attach all the documentation, the application, the credit report, last 2 pay stubs, last 2 bank statements, and if needed, the last year's tax return. Any questions on this? Okay, so lease listing launch preparation and tasks. Pre-launch, we're gonna research pricing in the area. You're representing a landlord. And the landlord doesn't know what the market rents are. Maybe they just bought the property, or they have a tenant that just moved out and they were like paying low rents. Well, you wanna research the area to find out how much the market rents are for that area. And you can find this in the MLS. So you're gonna look up recently leased properties. And then you can also look up what's on the market now, so you know what the competition is. Excuse me. Agree to a list price and a security deposit. So within the lease listing agreement, there's a line for the actual price for the lease monthly, and then what the security deposit is gonna be. And in most cases, it's gonna be 1 month. Discuss and agree commission amount. Discuss the possibility of tenants asking for the, not seller, the landlord to pay their agent's commission. So now that the law's changed, you're gonna negotiate what the landlord's gonna pay you to represent them. But let them know the tenants might ask, along with their application, for you, Mr. and Mrs. Landlord, to pay their agent's commission. Before, it was the landlord paid the commission for both agents. That was standard. It was negotiable, but it was standard, and that's what was understood throughout the industry. Well, now, the landlord only pays their agent's commission. The tenant pays their agent's commission, but landlords are still paying their commission, but it has to be asked for by the tenant. Let me know if any of this is confusing, or if you have any questions, if you want to elaborate further. But discuss what the landlord pays for and what the tenant pays for, as far as utilities. So there might be a duplex that they have only 1 water meter and the landlord pays for the water. So tenants are responsible for electricity and gas, whatever it is. Or they might all be separate meters and everyone pays everything. And if there's a gardener involved, sometimes the landlord wants to use their gardener, they're gonna pay the gardener. Sometimes they want the tenant to pay for it, but they want them to make sure there's a gardener there. Let's see, get the lease listing signed. And this is what the lease listing agreement looks like. Just so you guys know, date prepared is whatever, exactly what it is, date prepared. Exclusive right to lease, rental property owners, the first line, we're not gonna go through the whole thing, but I'm just gonna go through a couple of things that you, just so you know. Under rental amount, that's what the rent's gonna be per month. So here you're gonna say like $5,000 rent per month, you're gonna type in month. Let's see, security deposit, how much is that gonna be? You're gonna write that in there. And are they looking to lease it month to month, 1 year, or other? So typically you're gonna check the box for 1 year. Let's see, items included, fixtures, fittings, attached premises. Is there anything included with the property? Maybe they're including, I don't know, like a dining table or something that they just want to stay in the house, or you can include refrigerators, washer, dryer, things like that. But I think there's another section later on in the contract for that. But yeah, you can include that there. Personal property that will not be maintained or replaced. Actually, this is where you would put that. The refrigerator, washer, dryer, because the landlord's not gonna maintain that or pay to maintain it. They're providing it, but now it's up to the tenant to service it if they need to. Items included, we can go over that. Let's see. Let me move this out of the way. You guys can't see it at home, but I have to move this bar out of the way. So down at the bottom, you're gonna enter how much they're gonna pay you. So under 3B1, you're gonna check the box and you're gonna type in 3%, 2%, whatever it's gonna be of the full year's term. So if it's $5,000 a month times 12, what is it, 60,000? Times 2% or 3%. That's what they're gonna pay you. Any questions on that? It's not a lot, but you're getting a lot of experience doing it. And what if they decide to sell one day? Who do you think they're gonna call? Right? Well, you hope that they're gonna call you because you did a great job for them, right? Let's see. Commission, oh, here's an example. Does that make sense? Yeah. Okay. All right, let's move on. Okay, so pre-launch, you're also gonna want to order for sale sign. They actually don't say for sale. It's just a sign with a brokerage name. It's gonna have your name, your phone number, and your DRE license number. And then you can purchase a sign writer, like this for lease sign writer that you can attach to the top of the sign. You can buy different sign writers that say in escrow, for lease, sold, duplex, whatever the property is, there's sign writers for that. So you can include that with your for sale sign. And we order signs from RESS. This is the website, ressforsigns.com. Make sure when you order the signs, it says Coldwell Banker Platinum Properties. I think the default is Coldwell Banker Realty, so we're not Coldwell Banker Realty, we're Coldwell Banker Platinum Properties. All right, move on. Schedule a photographer or take photos yourself. There's some agents that if you have a nice iPhone or nice Samsung or something that takes great pictures, you can do that for a lease listing. But I've seen some lease listings with some crappy pictures. And they look yellow, they look washed out, and it's just like, you're not doing your client any service by doing that, any favors by doing that. So if you have, I have a decent camera on my phone and I can take pictures for my lease listing. But if you really want to impress them, you can hire a photographer. I think it's a couple $100 for pictures. And that just adds to your service, right? So don't take crappy pictures. You want to install and activate the Super E-Key app on your phone. We're talking about opening lockboxes. Make sure that you download the E-Key app. It's on the Play Store. It's on the, what's the other one? What's the App Store for iPhones? App Store? Okay, so App Store on iPhone and Play Store for Android. Sorry, I have an Android. And once you install it, you're going to call Orange County Realtors and subscribe to the E-Key service, which is, I believe, $15 a month. And they just bill your credit card for it, but it gives you access to open up lockboxes. They're going to give you an activation key, I believe, or some serial number or something for it. And then purchase a lockbox from Orange County Realtors. This is what the lockbox looks like. This shackle opens up, so you can place it either on the door or like on the gate or something, so that no one can take it. And then this tray at the bottom opens up. That's what houses the key. So put a key to the front door, gives realtors access. They come in, open the lockbox, take the key out, open the property, show the property, put the key back in the lockbox, and go on their way. So it's important to have this when you're working with listings. Now, launching your listing. So what you want to do is you want to search the MLS for previous listings of the subject property. Like if this was listed a year ago or 2 years ago with another agent, they probably entered all the information about the property. So it's good to have that as a reference because you're going to add this into the MLS. And the more information you have, the easier it's going to be for you to add the listing to the MLS. And I want to show you guys what that looks like. This is, I can't stress enough that you should have as much information about the property as possible. Let me see if I have anything else in here. So Another thing you can do is search the MLS for other properties in the same tract. Because they're also gonna have information about the neighborhood, about the schools, about the HOA, things like that, that are gonna help you when you do add the listing to the MLS. Submit the listing to the MLS. Okay, so let me show you guys. This is insane. I'm gonna go to the MLS. When you go to add a listing, we're gonna click on add new. And this is gonna be a residential lease. Let's say this is gonna be in Orange County. You know what, let me see if I can do copy my listing. One of my old ones. Let's do Junberry. Okay, I'm gonna do this one right here. I just wanna show you what's all entailed. So this is what you're gonna log into when you add a listing to the MLS. The first one is, you're gonna mark it as active, but you're not gonna do that yet because you're not activating it. You have to fill out all of these different steps. So under basics, there's information about the property, list price, parcel number, scroll down. So you have to fill all of this out here. And then when you're done, you have to go to description. You have to tap on the description, the property. And then you have to go to features and check mark. There's so many fields here that are required that you check, that if you don't, when you try to submit it and you're missing something, it's gonna say, we can't go active because you have to go back and check one of the boxes. And you're not gonna know until you try to submit the listing, and it's that something's missing. So you're gonna go through and check mark anything that applies to all this, right? And then you're gonna go to land lease information, land or lease information. And so there's more information here you're gonna fill out. And everything in yellow is required. But when you first start the listing, some of these are not gonna be yellow, but then later on, after you try to submit it, they're gonna be yellow. So you can be like, oh, I wish you would have told me sooner. So then we're gonna go to Office MLS. And this is about you, any, I guess, other showing instructions, contact information for yourself, all that stuff. And then is there anything that's green on the property? Right, and then, so in my case, I just said no. Power production, is there any power production? No. Open houses, this is where you can schedule your open house. What day, what time, and so forth. And then, once you've completed all that, you can click on, I like to click on validate, because when you click on validate, it shows you if everything's complete. But if you click validate, and you're missing something, you're gonna see like a little red circle, little red X or something next to one of these. That's gonna tell you where you're missing something. And then when you're ready, you click on submit listing, and then it will let you add photos. There's another link that you click on, manage photos, you're gonna upload all your photos. But there's a lot of information that you have to enter for a listing, right? So going back to the presentation or the class here, the more information you have, the better you're gonna be, right? So when I say look in the MLS to see if it was listed before, print that out, have it available. Look for other listings in the neighborhood, print those out, have them available. Then you're gonna submit it to the MLS. You're also gonna add the listing to Zillow. You know, they used to add the listings to Zillow automatically, but then they stopped doing it. And now I'm hearing from agents that it's automatically adding the listing to Zillow again, the lease listing. So if it's not in Zillow, create an account under Zillow Rental Manager as an agent, and then add the listing to it. And then you're gonna add the listing to SkySlope. SkySlope is our online transaction management system, where you're gonna upload a copy of all the fully executed documents or contracts, so that the brokerage has a copy of it. Once you complete the checklist of documents that are required and the transaction closes, then you get paid. But if it's not complete, and you haven't uploaded everything and turned everything in, and you won't get paid. So make sure you have all this done. And when you upload things to SkySlope, make sure you upload them as you get them. Don't wait until the transaction closes to upload them. Because if you find out that you're missing something, it's too late. Sometimes the other agent says, I'm not gonna do anything anymore, we're done. I got paid. So upload as you go. Add the listing to rent spree. So you're gonna add the listing to the MLS, you're gonna add it to Zillow, you're gonna add it to SkySlope for us, and then you're gonna add the listing to Rent Spree. And again, Rent Spree is a third-party website that allows you to email a link to the tenant with an application, and also for them to run their credit report. And I think it costs them like $39 to run the credit report. So usually you have to have a credit report for everyone over 18 years old. Or an application for everyone over 18 years old. In the case where it's maybe parents, 18-year-old that's in college, and then like a 10-year-old, you're gonna want an application for all three, the 18-year-old and the parents, but maybe not a credit report for the 18-year-old that's in school. So you can send a link with only the application to the 18-year-old, and then you can send a link with the application and credit report for the parents. So there's an option for that. Post-listing tests, install the yard sign. Right now that we have our for sale sign with the for lease sign right on it, we can add it to the yard. Install the lockbox. Log into SuperWeb website to assign the listing. So when you go into SuperWeb website, you've already registered, you should have already registered your lockbox onto that website. So it knows that this lockbox belongs to you. And this communicates with that website. And anytime someone, and you're gonna assign it to that property. So when you go into this website, you're gonna say this box with this serial number is at 123 Main Street. Because you might have 5 listings. And that's how it's gonna know which listing's which. And anytime an agent opens the lockbox, because they have their own code, their own e-key code, and they open the lockbox, it sends you their contact information saying, this person is at the listing right now. And so what time, what day, and everything, so that way you have a list of who entered the property. You can also print out a report for your client, say, look, this is a list of all the agents that showed the properties this week. Make property flyers with photos on them. Rent Spree has a flyer with a QR code for the application. So this is what that looks like. When you go to Rent Spree and you create that listing as a listing agent, right, representing the landlord, you can create a flyer like this. When you go through the application process, I guess it's pretty simple. When you create the listing on it, it allows you it just wants the information on the property. What's the property address? What's the asking price for it? And I think that's pretty much it. And then you can say, I want to email the application to someone. So it just says, who do you want to send it to? But instead of, you can either send the application or you can print out the flyer. So if I don't want to send out the application to someone, I can just click on create the flyer, and that's what I get. And if you scan this QR code, it's going to take you to the application or to the website for them to register. Then they're going to fill out the application. And once they complete that, it's gonna notify me as the agent, hey, this person completed their application. So I usually print this on the back side of the flyer. So I have the flyer with the pictures on the front, and then the QR code flyer on the back side. So when they ask, hey, how do I apply for this? Just scan the QR code on the back of the flyer. Simple enough. But it also allows you to send this link. So if you want to email the link to someone through Rent Spree, you can. Or you can create the flyer, or you can send them the text invite. You're gonna advertise the open house on social media, Facebook, Instagram. I don't know if TikTok, they're doing that on TikTok or not, I haven't seen that. Add the open house date and time in the MLS. I showed you guys how to add that for other agents to see, and then it also sends it over to Zillow. But if you don't see it on Zillow, there's no section on Zillow for open house, so what I like to do is I like to write in the description. I make sure that's the first thing in the description, so usually you read, beautiful home situated blah, 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 with 3 bedrooms, 2 baths, and near whatever it is. So I add it at the beginning, open house, big, capital letters, open house, Saturday, October, blah, whatever, from 1 to 4 p.m. So that's the first thing they read. And then once the open house is over, I remove that portion and just leave the rest on. Host an open house. When you host the open house, you're gonna have the open house non-agency, or you're gonna have the tenant representation form there. These are, one of them is a sign-in sheet, the other one is saying that you're gonna represent them if they want to submit an application, or if they want to work with you. Conduct showings. Try to schedule multiple showings per week, like in a one-time block. So what happens when you have a lease listing, you're gonna get leads from Zillow, you're gonna get leads from Coldwell Banker, you're gonna get leads from all these different places, maybe people calling you. And I learned this the hard way the first time I had a lease listing. I'd go to the property every time someone, yeah, what time do you want to see the property? 2 o'clock, okay, cool. The next person, like, at 2 o'clock, what time do you want to see the property? 4 o'clock, okay. You don't want to do that. What I say now is, I'm gonna be at the property on Wednesday at 5 p.m. If you can make it, cool. If not, I'm not sure when the next time is gonna be. So then I'll have like 5 to 10 people meet me there at the property at that time. And at the same time, it creates like this frenzy, right? Like, oh wow, all these people are interested in this property. So that's what I would do. And it's kind of like an open house, right? You're showing a bunch of property at one time, a bunch of people at one time. All right, so let's move on. So now that you have, either you showed the property, you have your own applicants, or other agents submitted applications, you're gonna present all the applications to the landlord, and then let the landlord decide who they want to pick, who they want to rent to. And they accept an offer. Cool. You accept an applicant. Now, you as a listing agent, it's your job to write up the listing agreement. Right, so it's between the landlord and the tenant's names. This is what the monthly rent's gonna be, this is a security deposit, this is how much the moving cost is gonna be, and then a bunch of other things, so. You're gonna go through that, you're gonna collect the security deposit and first month's rent. There's other forms that are included, not just the lease agreement, and we have a checklist of those forms, so make sure that you have all of those, they're fully executed, and you upload those to SkySlope. Deliver the keys, so you're gonna meet don't give them the keys before the moving date. Some people, like some agents, will be like, oh yeah, sure, what's it gonna hurt? What if they burn the house down, when they're moving stuff in? And they're like, you know what, we don't want it anymore, never mind, right? Get a copy of the moving inspection form, or give them a copy of the moving inspection form. Their agent's probably gonna do that. Let's see. Give the landlord a copy of every form they sign. Application, lease agreement, give them a hard copy. That's what I like to do. Or you can email it to them, it's up to you. Some people do a thumb drive. It's a little harder to find if you lose it. Any questions on this? So a lot of these steps are gonna be things that you're gonna do, like when we talk about the listing presentation, or when you have a listing, what do you do? So I kind of summarized everything here. But if you have any questions of anything in between, let me know. Any questions on any of it? Okay. Now we're switching sides. We're going to represent the tenant. So consultation, client calls you up, or you get a lead about a particular property. It's what city you're looking at, how many bedrooms, how many baths, how many occupants, how many adults. You want to know how many people you're going to send the application to. Email the rent-free application link to all the adults, fill out the application and pay for the credit report. Again, if it's like students living in the house that with their parents, you're gonna send them just the application without the credit report. Request supporting documentation. Again, you're gonna look in the MLS at the bottom of each listing. Not everybody tells you, but most of them are gonna tell you, we want the last 2 pay stubs, we want the last 2 bank statements, we want the credit report. we want the, application, or whatever, some ask for a driver's license. A lot of them don't, but some do. So make sure you have all that. And make sure that they sign the tenant representation agreement. And this is what that looks like. So what this is so this can go no longer than 3 months. Actually, no, that's for the buyer representation agreement. This one, there's no limit on this one. You can lock them in for a year. Which is kind of weird that they did that to the buyer broker agreement, but not to this one. But let's face it, who's gonna be looking for a rental for a whole year, right? So it's probably not gonna be a year. And then you're going to enter either a city, a particular city they're looking in. So you're representing them to find a place in a particular city, or, let's see. Go down here, move this out of the way. Amount of compensation under D. You're gonna check the box and type in 2%, 3%, or you can enter a dollar amount. $1,000. Whatever you want to charge them. But you want to make sure you have this signed before you show property. It's not part of the lawsuit with NAR, so it's not required that you have it signed. But who's gonna pay you? One thing that we've experienced with tenants is that you're working with them, and before this form didn't really exist. So you show them properties and then spend every weekend showing them properties, and then one day they go to an open house and they just apply through the listing agent. And now you just spend all that time showing them property and they went directly to the listing agent. Well, with this, it says that they're gonna pay you even if they go to the listing agent. Because you're representing them. Any questions? Okay. Also, let the tenant know that if you guys ask the listing agent or the landlord to pay the agent's commission, the buyer's agent or tenant's, sorry, let me start again. Let your tenant know that when you submit their application, you can also submit a form, which is a lease rental commission agreement, asking the landlord to pay the tenant's agent commission, so my commission. The landlord doesn't have to agree to it, but they can, it's all negotiable. And right now, landlords are paying the commission. So when you submit your application packet, that includes the application, the credit report, the last 2 pay stubs, last 2 bank statements, also include the lease rental commission agreement. That says, Mr. Landlord, can you pay 2% or 3% to the tenant's agent? So it's an agreement between you and the landlord, not between you and the tenant at that point. And if the landlord agrees to pay that, that means the tenant is off the hook for whatever the landlord pays you. And that language is all written on this contract. That says that if the tenant's agent receives compensation from anyone else, goes to a credit towards the tenant's obligation. So if you have, let's say, an agreement for 3%, the landlord agrees to pay you 2%, the tenant only owes you 1%. Or if it's 3%, tenant doesn't owe you anything. So just keep that in mind. Does that make sense? So what you're gonna do next after you have that signed, you're gonna email a list of homes to the tenant. Based on the city they're looking for, number of beds, number of baths. Schedule selected showings. Show the selected homes. Jesus, they just, is in the way. So I'm gonna move it to the side. Make sure to adhere to the showing instructions. So every listing in the MLS is going to have showing instructions. Not every, some may not have anything. But if there are showing instructions, adhere to them because that could be a violation. And you might get fined if someone turns you in for it. So whether it's not following the showing instructions or entering a property without permission, those are $1,500 fines each. So keep that in mind. If you do maybe schedule something with the listing agent over the phone, it'd be a good idea to email them saying, just confirming, or thank you, just confirming that it's 3 o'clock at this time, whatever this day. Thanks again, or per our conversation, now you have record of something, right? Phone call, there's no record, it's, yeah, I called, but are they gonna subpoena your phone records and show, that you called, didn't call? Let's see. You're gonna submit the application and supporting documentation to the listing, include a lease rental commission agreement. And I think I have an example of what that looks like. The MLS listing will have instructions as to what documents are required. We talked about that. Strategies to make your tenant stand out. So you submitted a bunch of applications for your tenant and no one's accepting them. And they're pretty good. Good credit, good income, just great people. Offer above asking price. Who's gonna say no to more money? That works. They're asking for 5,000, offer 5250. If they can afford it. It's more money. Who's gonna say no to that? Or offer 6 months to a year upfront. This will definitely make your offer stand out or your applicant stand out. And it works. And here is the lease rental commission agreement. Let me move this out of the way again. So here you're asking I would check mark the housing provider over here on the left-hand side. And it's between the housing provider, you're gonna write their name in, and then the tenant's name, wherever your tenants are. But on this line here, you're gonna check mark the box housing provider because you're asking the housing provider to pay your commission. And then you're asking them to pay, housing provider pay compensation equal to, and you're gonna write 2% of first year's term, or $1,000 or whatever it is, whatever you're gonna enter. But that's where you're gonna enter what the compensation is gonna be. And then they're gonna sign at the bottom, they agree, but that's what that looks like. So this is gonna go along with your application. Or your application packet. See, I didn't include the samples before. Now you guys get to see what it looks like. So what happens next? Acceptance. You submitted everything. The landlord reviewed all the applicants, and because you offered a little bit above asking price, they went with your tenants. And they agreed to pay the commission because they're getting more money anyway, right? Why not? So then the listing agent is going to drop the lease agreement and send it over to with additional disclosures for the tenants to sign. Again, now we're on the tenant side, so the listing agent is going to send over the lease agreement and all the documents signed, filled out and ready to sign. Make sure to review the lease agreement, review the lease price, the terms, etc. Correct names, everything on there. It's your job to make sure that that lease agreement is as agreed to, has all the terms that were agreed to before your tenant signs it. Have the tenant sign all the documents. Now money. First month's rent, security deposit, cashier's checks, or electronic deposit transfer. Sometimes the landlord will accept personal checks. And it might be 1, 2, or 3 checks or electronic transfer. So one check might go to the list for the listing broker's commission. Here's what happens. Let's say the moving cost is $5,000 for the first month and then $5,000 deposit. Out of the total $10,000 moving, you're gonna deduct $1,500 commission and write a check for $1,500 for the listing agent. And then if the landlord agrees to pay the tenant's agent's commission, then it's gonna be another check, number 2, $1,500 commission check to the other office commission. And then the remainder of it is gonna be check 3, and that goes to the landlord. So it's gonna be $1,500, $1,500, and then a $7,000 check to the landlord. Does that make sense? Or maybe they're only paying their agent's commission, and it's gonna be $1,500 to the agent, and then the rest of that, what is it, $8,500 to the landlord. Does that make sense? Anybody have questions? Okay. Then you're gonna deliver the keys to or meet meet the landlord or the listing agent at the property with your client for the transfer of the keys. Explain the keys, remotes, passcodes, make sure that they're explaining all this, right? Because you're gonna have. Maybe that you don't know where the mailbox is. It's not, there's like a central mailbox location for the whole community. Where is it? What number is it? Things like that. Is there a remote? Is there a passcode for the front door? Is there an alarm code? Is there, I don't know, there's plenty of things that you need explanations for. So make sure that you have all those explanations. Have the tenant fill out the move-in form. And the move-in form protects the tenant. It protects both, but if you represent a tenant, you want to make sure that they fill this out because you want to write down anything that's deficient in the home the day you moved in, the day they moved in. Because if you move out, let's say there's something broken now, there's no move-in form. When you move out, the landlord's gonna go to the house and say, hey, that's broken. Tenant's gonna be like, that was there like when I moved in, so. No, it wasn't. How can you prove it? Right? That's what the move-in form is for. Anything that torn carpet, broken window, whatever it is, you're gonna fill it out right in each room. There's a section for each room, bathroom, bedroom, living room area, whatever it is. If there's anything wrong with it, the tenant's gonna initial all the pages, sign the last page. I believe the agent signs it too. Send it over to the listing side and have the landlord acknowledge and sign it. Then you get a copy of it back. So now everybody knows what was wrong with the house when you moved in. Or maybe there wasn't anything wrong with the house, but you have that. If there was anything wrong, that protects the landlord. If there was something broken, it's gonna protect the tenant, right? Because then they don't have to pay to fix it. So now there's record of that. Give the tenant a copy of the transaction file, just like when you represented the landlord, you gave them a copy. Now you're gonna give the tenant a copy of it. Upload everything to SkySlope, give the commission check to, made out to Colo Banker. So when you ask the landlord write out the commission check, they're gonna write it out to Colo Banker Platinum Properties. You're gonna give it to John Pasola here at the office. And then John's gonna issue you a check after you're split with the company. And then make sure you get the move-in form, inspection form signed and uploaded to SkySlope. So that way everybody has a copy of it. So housekeeping, pet versus emotional support and service animal. Pet deposits are only for pets. Are emotional support and service animals considered pets? They're not.
Oh, really?
They're not considered pets.
Oh.
So if you have an emotional support animal, your tenant does, they don't have to pay a pet deposit for it. Or a service animal, yes.
And there's some dog.
Yeah.
Obviously, does it look like a emotional support or service animal?
They don't have to look like it. They just have to have a certificate saying that they're a service animal or an emotional support animal.
Okay.
So there's a difference. If you don't have a certificate for emotional support or service animal, then it's a pet. And then you have to pay a pet deposit for it. Discrimination, don't discriminate. Don't discriminate race, age, sex, gender, disability, religion, marital status. If they're a Kansas City Chiefs fan, don't discriminate. I don't like them, but don't discriminate. Section 8 housing, do you guys know what Section 8 housing is?
Is it low?
Yeah, low income. So yeah, Sam, okay, for those of you that want a little more explanation, because people always ask, what's Section 8 housing? Well, let me see if it comes up here. Yeah. Oh. Okay, the housing choice voucher, so it's a voucher, right? The housing choice voucher program is the federal government's major program for assisting very low income families, the elderly and the disabled to afford decent, safe and sanitary housing in the private market. Since housing assistance is provided on behalf of the family or individual, participants will be able to find their own housing, including single family homes, townhomes and apartments. Housing subsidy is paid to the landlord directly from the public housing agency on behalf of the participating family. The family then pays the difference between the actual rent charged by the landlord and the amount subsidized by the program. So it's the government paying a majority of the rent on behalf of the tenant, of the low income tenant. A lot of landlords don't like this. But they can't discriminate because of this. Some landlords love this because it's guaranteed money every month. whether the person lost their job or not, or whatever, that's guaranteed money. So you're gonna have a balance, but if you have a listing and an agent calls you and asks you, hey, does the landlord accept section 8 housing? Don't say no. Just say, hey, the landlord's reviewing all offers, all applicants, send it in. Now, is that gonna, I don't know, help them or hurt them? Who knows? But it shouldn't. So keep that in mind. Don't discriminate. Make sure you let your landlord know if anyone asks them. Don't say no, because they can sue you for that. Any questions? No? Sam, anybody out there questions? Sam, how's it been for you out there showing property?
Um, it hasn't been bad. I'm waiting on my current client to send me the RTA so I can forward it to the leasing agent and get it filled out and get it approved for them to come out and I guess assess the place
Yeah.
to make sure it's clear for Section 8 and yeah, it's kind of a waiting game right now, but it's going good. Okay, other than the person that told me that they're not accepting Section 8.
They have to inspect the property, right, to see if it even qualifies for it.
Yeah.
That's another thing. Okay. Well, if nobody has any questions, then next Thursday, we're not gonna have a class. We have the Halloween party, so you guys definitely come next Thursday. Wear a costume. It's like a potluck type of thing, so if you wanna bring something, bring something. If you don't, it's cool. Still show up, but we all wear costumes. So don't be the boring person that doesn't wear a costume.
Thanks,
Uh,
Carlos.
All right, Harriet, I'm gonna love your costume. I know, Harriet, already.
You will.
Thank you, Carlos.
All right,
Bye.
you guys.